This ETF is great if you are bearish on the real estate market. It is also a way to protect the real estate investments you have. So, first off, read this disclaimer carefully. We are talking about the DRV, Direction Daily MSCI Real Estate Bear 3X shares. So this is one of those leveraged ETFs, meaning they are not intended for long-term holding. As a matter of fact, many of these products are disastrous over the long term. They do, however, work for shorter-term speculation. This ETF, it basically tracks this one, the Vanguard Real Estate ETF, though it does the opposite of it being bearish. So here you have the long-term performance of the DRV, weekly data points going all the way back here to July 2009. And it has lost minus 99%, basically it lost 100% within this time frame. So this goes to show you that these products, they do not work long term. But let's zoom in a bit, because in shorter time frames they actually do work pretty well. So let's use some examples. So this period here from July 2016 here to November 2016, this ETF rallied 49%. Let's remove this. So that was a pretty substantial rally. And if we go here to the most recent one, that is this. So from that low here to the intra-week high, because these are weekly candles, intra-week high, it is around there, 233% in a very short time frame. So, why be bearish then on real estate? The issue is that you have a giant portion of the real estate market is commercial. The thing is that with so much now of the world being closed down, these real estate locations are not being used. There are many companies that simply cannot pay the rent. Many companies are also getting accustomed to having the employees work from home. That actually works for a lot of different businesses. Meaning, I think a lot of especially commercial real estate will have a hard time after the pandemic is over, because people have changed their habits. That is, bearish for certainly that portion of the real estate market. There are also problematic features about the residential real estate market, because you do have a lot of people who will downgrade during these times of turmoil, and that those kinds of downgrades, they can quickly add up, and that will put downward pressure on the price. So the primary issue with this entire market is that it's heavily leveraged. Okay, we are not talking about the ETF as such, but the actual real estate market is leveraged. You take up a huge loan from a bank. Of course, the plan is that you're gradually paying it back, but if there's any kind of upset in your ability to make an income, then that becomes a problem. And as the saying goes, if you owe your bank $1,000, then you have a problem. But if you owe the bank $1 million, then the bank has a problem. So the real estate market is certainly one of those that can be hit quite hard with Corona. And this is one of the ways to one thing is to protect yourself if you have real estate investments. Another thing is to use these ETFs for shorter term speculation. And this percentage move, let's measure it with the daily data points as well. Like here to this intraday top area, 233%. Yeah, that's pretty darn impressive. That's very impressive. But yeah, as you saw, long term this ETF it decays substantially. So only for shorter term speculation. So here we have the ETF, and here of course they have the typical disclaimer, which is very important for these leveraged ETFs, is that it only gives daily minus 3x exposure. Due to the fund's daily rebalancing, long-term returns are difficult to predict due to path dependency and compounding. There are some examples of leveraged ETFs that have worked longer term, but given that there's such a huge discrepancy, some work, some are disastrous, the general disclaimer is to just be really careful with these products. So technically it does say that it is derived from the MSCI US EMI Real Estate 2550 index. The ETF closest to that one is the VNQ. So let's look at the VNQ. And by the way, as far as statistical correlations goes, we can see here that there's a minus 92% correlation between the VNQ and the DRV, which is what you want to see, meaning they more or less move opposite each other. If we look at weekly data points, then the negative correlation is minus 80%. So it is not the perfect minus 100% we would want to see, but it is close. If we go back here as an example, it was minus 83. Let's go to this example here. Here it was approaching perfect negative correlation. So here's the VNQ, A994. Of course, another way to be bearish on real estate is to short this ETF or use option strategies pertaining to the VNQ. So let's look under the hood. So you can see here that commercial real estate accounts for 41%, which is one of those sectors of the real estate market I'm especially bearish, especially bearish when it comes to that, because I think that this whole contagion situation, it is lasting so long that people's behavior changes. So when it's all said and done, people will just get used to ordering stuff online, working from home. That puts massive downward pressures on commercial rates. Many of them could potentially also, well, very likely, be turned to residential units. So that's another thing to keep your eye on. And of course, if a bunch of those hit the market, then that will put pressure on this sector. So residential REITs account for 15%. Specialized REITs, it can be a bit, it can be all kinds of stuff really. So let's look at the holdings. So here as an example is American Tower Corporation. So let's just use some examples here, and here we have Prologis. I think Prologis is data centers. Public storage, no, I think actually that is some storage units. So as you can see, this is all kinds of different real estate. Here is hotels and resorts. I mean, some of these names are quite self-explanatory. Yeah. Office realty. So let's look at public storage. Yeah, so this is a self-storage company. Storage units. So that's it is not something you immediately think of as real estate, but it actually is. Prologis, I think, yes, it's logistics real estate. Provides efficient logistics real estate solutions to the world. Yeah. So that was logistics actually, not data centers. But I know that data centers are also considered to be real estate. American Tower. So this is we are a global provider of wireless communications infrastructure. Yeah, so that's also one of those great examples of how broad the REIT category is. So yeah. So you do have two options, at least presented here. You have the DRV, the minus 3x ETF. That's one way to participate in the downtrend. And as you saw, the gains recently have been substantial. And of course you have the VNQ, in which you can go short. And you also have option strategies, which is my personal favorite, because the options market it opens up a wide variety of ways to basically profit from it going up, down, sideways, increased volatility, decreased volatility. The options market is pretty amazing, but the barrier of entry is really high, huge, steep learning curve. But yeah, whatever you do, of course, you want to let the trend be your friend.